State of Louisville Podcast Network. I am your host, Zach, here with your other host, Benton. And Ben, it's just you and me this week.
Just you and me, and we're here to talk solely racing in this episode. Last one was Louisville
Season
City.
preview.
Yeah, we got to go through things. We talked about them what was like a month or two back, like midway through the off season, but I feel like a lot's happened and we have a little bit more clear picture than we did back then.
Yeah, we didn't have a schedule last time we talked. Several of the moves have happened
Yeah,
since then. So.
and I remember I was kind of being like being kind of negative, I guess, for lack of a better term, but I'm feeling better now about the team and where they're at. We'll get into that shortly, but before we do that, our age-old question is, Zach, what are you into this week?
I got a music one this week.
Okay.
I have been very much into the new album by The Smile, which is Johnny Greenwood and the lead singer from Radiohead's side, or I guess Radiohead's not really a thing anymore, so I guess it's not really a side project. It's their main project. But it's their second album. I didn't really get super into their first album, but this new one I have really enjoyed. It has a lot of the stuff that I liked off like the most recent few Radiohead albums, kind of has that vibe to it. So I have been listening to that album a lot this week. What are you into, Ben? Oh wait, did you have?
I was gonna say, is it sad? You say Radiohead, like I'm familiar with their existence, but I couldn't describe them to you. Like I don't like listen to them at all. And I feel like I'm like, huh, that's one of those I feel like that's one of those bands like everybody like just knows enough about, and I don't feel like I'm there.
I believe their original claim to fame was they had 3 guitarists, but that was like a 90s thing. By the time I was into them, they usually had no guitars playing.
So maybe I need to queue them up on YouTube.
Radiohead is very good. Like it's hard to think of. Back when I was in high school, Radiohead had this vibe where it's like they were making important music, and it's like I don't feel like anyone owns that space really anymore. But yes,
That's fair.
I really enjoyed Radiohead, and this new Smile album kind of fills the Radiohead void that there's
There you
been
go.
since they were really officially broke up, but they haven't made an album in
Sometimes those bands they
years,
just kind of
so.
dissipate.
But what are you into this week, Benton?
Well, I'm still into the game Helldivers 2. It's a
I
lot of
finally
fun.
played it.
Did you? How did you like it?
I liked it. I kept getting killed by my own teammates. They kept dropping rockets from space on my head while I was
that
shooting
happens.
bugs.
Friendly fire is like a big component of that game, and it's kind of hilarious.
I liked that you can do that little dive away and shoot thing. But I could not figure out how to stand back up after I did it, so I kept doing a cool dive away from the bugs, and then they would just walk over and eat me.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like it's a great game. It's still like the online connectivity and stuff like that still very like unpolished. Still a lot of work happening there, but it's a blast. I got a lot of friends who have it, so I've been playing that. But aside from Helldivers 2, I've been kind of getting back into we'll just call it career development for a lack of a better term. A lot of technical learning. I recently just got my certification finally in Power BI. Just had been dragging my feet on a very long time for that one. So doing some work with SQL. I know enough to be dangerous, but I'd like to be like really good at it. Starting to learn some Python. I even shared a visual on Twitter the other day with that. So I'm trying to up my game a little bit. All my nerd stuff.
Very nice.
So I'm actually enjoying it. Trying to balance that, like when I have free time, the urge is to play Helldivers, but I know I'm like, Benton, you gotta do some productive stuff.
I've been trying to learn Lua recently.
I'm not even familiar with that.
Languages, because the Playdate, that little portable video game console I have, that's the main programming language for that. And so I've been wanting to try to make some games for that. So I've been dabbling in that a little bit.
There you go. Yeah, it's a new world for me. I mean, SQL's pretty like very intuitive, but Python is still a little foreign, but it's clicking more than it has in my exploration in the past. So anyway, let's stop talking about nerd stuff and
We
get
got
into
lots of
soccer,
soccer to talk
where
about.
we'll inevitably probably talk about nerd stuff in there too, huh? All
I'm
right.
about to say how that sequel stuff could be helpful for doing some soccer stat work.
Yeah, John Morrissey and I, we've been talking about together about the access of data and our kind of issues there in that space. So I'm hoping to help streamline that for both him and I. Um, so Racing Louisville. Zach, I want to kind of get your high level thoughts on the offseason moves. Some of the, is it net positive, negative in your mind?
So I think uh I think the roster got deeper for sure. I think just quantity wise, they added a lot more than they lost. Uh, but I do think that maybe the depth came at like a bit of a loss of some of the high end of the quality. Players like Timby departing and Page, I think are a big hit, specifically in the attack. But I think they've overall made up for it just in they're going to be a much deeper team this season than they were last season, which I think will help. I think how dismissive can we be about how much we think the coaching situation's improved this season?
I mean, that was going to be a talking
I
point
think
throughout for me.
that's the big improvement over last season.
Yeah, that's literally what I had wrote down. Like I kind of view things as kind of a big net positive for the team. The coaching change, honestly, being one of them. I mean, the team got close to making the playoffs with Coach Kim, right? And I think we had some gripes about how he was running the show. I'm still thinking about him refusing to like put Davison over Nadia on top of other things. But
In a stretch too.
yeah. So like you think about stuff like that, and then how bought in the players genuinely are with Coach Bev Yanez. I heard Jalen Howe talk today, and like it's like you can tell when they're talking, like I guess how enthusiastic somebody is about it, and like you can tell it's really like genuine, the excitement and being bought in, and I think that's a huge component. And I mean, that alone could be, just the nudge that the team needs to kind of move the needle to from being an outside the playoffs to in the playoff picture, and then on top of all the moves, like again, I think that was a net positive there. I think our two biggest losses were Tembe Catlana, Paige Monahan. Um, I mean, both kind of left under, we'll say, understandable circumstances. Tembe got offered a ton of money, and I mean, they kind of had to take it. The club got a good payout from it. Tembe secured the bag, like. Like I get that one, and then Paige got taken the expansion draft. We can say what we want about that, but we were limited in who we could have protected. I think we protected the right people, and it was always looking like we'd probably lose somebody. And again, we've lost other players as well. Those are most notable. Um, but overall, like I like to think it's a net improvement. Maybe a net improvement in the long term. We still we brought in, I think, like a lot of like we got a handful of younger players that I think are going to pan out well.
Well, and I also think we'll see some improvement just from a group of players getting a season older too. I'm thinking like Howell in the midfield. I think another
Yep.
season of experience for her is going to be a plus. I think some of the younger players. I mean, Davis. We
Mhm.
were already a pretty young team last season and brought in even more youth. So
Yeah.
I think just time helps there too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean they did bring in some experience like alongside it with that Taylor Flint, Aaron
Yeah, we
Wright.
lost some experience, and also I feel like just purely from a experience standpoint, like the some of the more experienced players we lost, I feel like locker room wise, we've made that up in some players with NWSL experience under their belt that we've brought in.
Yeah, and I was planning on bringing this up later, but one thing I did want to specifically call like the acquisition of Aaron Wright and her just like kind of deep experience in the league, kind of adding to that defensive core. I think there's a ton of value in that. And then Taylor Flint, formerly Taylor Korniak, like adding her into the midfield mix to
Yeah.
complement
Well,
your likes of
and
your Jalen, Savannah, like I
DeGron,
love that.
formerly Vigiano, has some quality
Yep.
experience too. Yeah, that
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of positives there. But
one one thing I do want to mention because we've been listing them off. I think there's kind of a logjam in the midfield right now as the roster is constructed. I'm kind of curious. There's a lot of versatility there too, so I think maybe some of the players that we are thinking of as midfielders might see the field in different spots. But that's just a note. Is
yeah.
we have way more midfielders than we could play in the midfield
No, yeah,
currently.
I don't totally disagree there, but the versatility point is something I definitely want to circle back and explicitly talk on. Uh,
That one of those players I have specifically later on to mention.
yeah.
So
Um, so I mean, I guess kind of like looking at like where we thought the team was at the end of last season and where they are now, kind of want to talk about needs. Like what I guess what are your how are you thinking about the team needs right now as far as like have they filled all the gaps that we felt that they had? Are there still kind of openings that you're concerned about, like from a full
so
team perspective?
I feel like outside back has perpetually been a need for this team ever since season one. That the team can't seem to have uh, more than one or two outside backs on the roster at a time that can play significant minutes. I think that has been addressed. This is the first season where I feel like we actually have some depth at that position.
Mhm.
I feel like someone can get hurt or need to take a game off, and it's not the end of the world at outside back.
Yeah.
Finally, uh, I feel like what was not a need at the end of last season, but became a need once the departures uh, arose, was attacking wing. We were pretty settled there, and then with the loss of Timmy and Page, I feel like, especially specifically that left wing, that was like our whole attack left there. So I think, I mean, there are certainly players on the roster who can play there now, but I think it's still a question mark for me whether we've fully replaced what we've left there on the attacking left wing. Um, but I think the midfield is super solid, that's like the core you want to build from. So I think that I feel good about having the depth there that we have. I think a big question mark is, can Davis take the next step? Because that's sort of that center attacking position, I think is a bit of a question mark, but I think just a little bit of growth from Davis, and that's completely taken care of. So I don't know. What do you think about concerns or about needs?
Yeah, I mean, probably just kind of on the attacking front. That's probably, I don't know if it's a need, but it's guess kind of more one of those, I guess, questionable areas, like you said, talking about Christian. Right, is she going to be ready to take on more significant minutes? You got rookies like Rylan Turner, like how much can she contribute like early on? Um, so I'm going to really be curious on how that situation pans out. If I was being nitpicky, I would have liked to see a little bit more defensive depth, particularly on the outside backs, like we were talking about. So we have Malay, we have Pickett, we have Wright. Who else on the roster do we believe it could be or is an outside back? Who am I missing?
Um, oh, now you put me on the spot.
See that's
I
my
was just thinking specifically that we had three that are starting quality,
yeah, no,
whereas
no,
we
and
never
that's
had
and
one,
that's
two, or
good,
four.
and I think that's better than where we
Yeah.
we were. But if I were being nitpicky, I would have liked to like see just like one more added into
We
that
can
mix.
absorb an injury there.
Yeah, and but again, like there's probably players that they know internally could slot right in that position, and I've said this before. I'll continue saying it. I'm a victim of it as well. I think these players are a lot more flexible and versatile than we give them credit for. we get very honed in these buckets on where we're like used to them playing or where they've played in the past. But I think that's one of the beautiful things about this game, right? Is that like I don't think it's so like world changing to make those kind of switches, right? Like in the NFL, quarterback is a quarterback. You don't see a lot of movement there from one position to that spot and vice versa. And you could do like any other spot on the field there. So um, I'll be eager to like when the need arises to see who else can fill that void. I mean, heck, probably my guess would be one of the center backs could do that. I mean,
Yeah, we
that
did
seems like the most
lose.
natural transition.
Lester could sort of slide out there a little bit last season, but she's gone now.
I,
So
I liked her for depth, and that's
yeah,
I didn't write down all of the departures on our show notes, but I wrote down Temby, Page, and I included
I'm
Julie
trying to
Lester for that
remember
reason.
if Ellie Jean played outside at all for Gotham or if she was just center. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. So I mean, again, like the plan could be is that like somebody like her flexes out wide, and that would kind of fill that void. So part of that is probably due to my lack of familiarity with that. But now like I guess the biggest need I think need is would be the I guess the attacking portion and the question marks around there. Now, who do you think is the I guess kind of the best overall pickup for the group? I mean, there's quite a list here of players that we've gotten.
Yeah, I mean, I think because they were all announced kind of around each other. So Flint and DeGrand and Wright, I think we're all big. I just because I'm like a home team stan and she's from Kentucky. I think Wright is like that's a big signing for the team. It's a player that I had hoped would play here eventually. Um,
You've said it on
since
the
the
show
team was
before.
announced. Yeah. So but I think you could really pick any of the three of those. I think that those are their big additions.
Yeah, I had written down Aaron Wright. Large like less so for the sentimentals. I do like that element as well, but like just the amount of experience that she has and just adding that to the defensive equation because it's all stat recently is about our expected goals against. It's not a good picture. Last year was a big improvement over the year before, but still I think an area of opportunity and that really helps that one. I do like the acquisition of Taylor Flint. We did
Yeah,
talk about
I
the
was gonna say if we had to pick someone other than Wright, I think Flint may actually have the biggest could has she has the skills to have the biggest impact of all the new
yeah.
players.
And again, we talked about how there's a lot of players that like could conceivably be within that midfield, but I almost kind of think it's like a good problem to have. I mean, you're going to have injuries, you're going to have national team call ups, you're going to have all sorts of things where that depth is going to be needed. So I don't think we'll be complaining about that in the
Well,
once
and I
things
was
really
gonna
get cooking.
mention because we mentioned um like depth at forward being maybe a bit of a concern. I Flint can play forward as well as midfield. I mean, she sort of um like in San Diego and in Orlando has played both of those spots. So I would not be surprised to see maybe her playing center forward a bit for the team. Or some sort of complicated position like that. So I think that's an option
Yeah,
to be aware of.
yeah. And we haven't talked about her yet, but I think it's worth mentioning here. Linda Malotho. Um, I think she's kind of viewed as the Tembi sort of replacement. I don't know that it's necessarily a one-to-one, but I think there's some excitement about what she could bring to the table. So that's somebody we could be talking about a lot more once we kind of see some action on the pitch to kind of gauge with where this team's at.
Well, I
Um,
think you have a note here. Michael Fleur-de-Lis FC mentioned Emily Sears set the team speed record during training camp. So that's another player to keep on. Speed's not necessarily everything, but you mentioned Timby. There's like a Timby shaped hole in the team's speed to be filled. So having a player with some pace could help with that.
yeah, and like, I like the idea of having somebody really fast like that coming off the bench,
He
to
moves
make a
so fast.
to have like a Louisville City comparison. Think of like Brian Ownby getting subbed on later in the game. You got a team full of guys that are really starting to kind of feel it. Those minutes are accumulating. They're getting a little more tired. And then Brian Ownby, a fresh Brian Ownby of all people, comes onto the pitch. We saw the same thing last year with um Temby, whenever she would be subbing on, particularly I guess when she was you know coming back from injury. I like that dynamicism that offers. Which kind of lends nicely to my next question. Most intriguing. Who stands out to you as just being really interesting, whether it's because you have questions about them or because of some trait?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Sears. I'm intrigued about that speed, uh, the team speed record. So I'm curious to see if that translates on the field. Um, I a player I don't know a whole lot about because she's not played in the U.S. much. And I think it kind of maybe got lost in the shuffle around like announcing they were heading to the Women's Cup in Colombia, but Alexa Barr or Bear, how out of Colombia. I'm kind of curious. She's like a question mark for me. It was hard to find a lot of information on her, so I'm intrigued by that signing.
Yeah.
What about you, Ben?
I can't say her name because I have an Amazon device in front of me that her name will trigger, but she's somebody interesting for the same reasons as you are. Don't know a ton about her. However, we've been told she's one of a few handful of players who somebody inside said that has been having a good preseason, along with Fisher, Picorni, and Ellie Jean, who I'm not as familiar with her either, but it's good to see that she's kind of generating some interest. Um, Rylan Turner stands out to me just because she's a high draft pick. She's an attacking component, which again is the area we're talking about. We probably are the most, I guess, interested in seeing how that pans out. Could be possible she sees some early minutes. I know she was playing some in the Women's Cup, which unfortunately I only got to see about half of the first game. Didn't get to see any of the second. I'm a bad fan. Um,
They were kind of hard to find.
yeah, they didn't make it easy, and my schedule wasn't super conducive for it. So, um,
From what I read recaps. I mean, it seems like the team did very well against all of the international teams and kind of got stomped by Gotham a bit in the final.
yeah, I mean, Gotham's kind of this like freak super team this
Yeah.
season. So if that's going to happen to against any
I don't think
NWSL
any of the
team,
super team players were there with them in Columbia, though, is the concern.
quiet, quiet, just don't mention that. Um, Also interested in Sears for the speed component we're talking about Flint because I've mentioned this before how she fits in that equation in the midfield, and then really interested in Wright because is she ready to step up and get those minutes?
Well, and so something intriguing about Flint is because we had a lot of success on set pieces last season, um, uh, with Pickett sending balls into Airsig because she's a big target. Flint is also quite tall, and so I think that gives them an option for crosses in the run of play, not just on set pieces. So
Yeah,
I think that could be a big deal.
great call. Yeah, I was not. I knew she was tall, but I just didn't connect the dots there
Yeah.
on on that component. But yeah, I mean,
So maybe
absolutely.
some of that set piece success can translate into the run of play this
Yeah, you
season
now got
with that combination.
yeah, maybe now you got two like real like viable options as far as getting that height to get a good angle on the ball. Um, this might be a little trickier for us to talk about since you and we've not gotten to really see the team much in action, but I guess kind of formation and tactics wise, like what are you expecting from the team and what will you be looking out for?
Well, so um, I know versatility. I've heard lots of people talk about versatility a lot. So I think we'll probably see a lot more positional fluidity this season of the team. I think a lot of switches, um, um, a lot of maybe not sticking to super strict shape, allowing the players to go where they need to. I think uh, I know Coach Bev has mentioned they want to possess the ball more this season than they did last season. So I I don't know. I guess the question mark is, are we still going to be as committed to the press as in previous years, or are we going to maybe allow that to back off a bit to allow the team to do some other things? Because it's just um, yeah, I think you need to have versatility there. You can't just be all about the press all the time.
Yeah, I just kind of reading between the lines. I think the lack of mention of that leads me to believe that maybe it's going to be not as strong of an emphasis.
Yeah. Well, and
And
also, Paige was kind of their best player in the press last season. She's gone, so that also I think would hamper the press a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we do know. I mean, Bev has outright said about wanting to kind of possess the ball more, a lot more, I guess, control of the match. Fluidity is another thing that's come out. I'll credit Becky Morgan, who does writing for the Beautiful Game Network and the Equalizer. She called out about Pickett getting up and down the sidelines and even kind of centrally in the Women's Cup. So she's getting a little bit more freedom, which I felt like last year she was a little bit, I guess, more restricted to, I guess, kind of a classical outside back position. When you think of them not really getting up as much, it seems like she's
It's a
getting a little more
thing.
instruction to run free.
It's a thing the team never really got good enough to take advantage of with
Yeah,
Fox, is that she would get pinned in on defense, and the team never got the best out of her because of that.
yeah.
Uh,
So
I'm
yeah,
all, if we see some more total football, I'm all about that.
yeah, and the versatility component is I think that there's a lot of by design these players can play in a lot of different areas, and I think have been preparing for that. All but Abby Ursig and the goalkeepers have I guess we'll call it a secondary position. So we could see a lineup that doesn't totally mesh with our vision of like what position these players change and or have played historically, which I think it's a good thing, right? Like not only I guess the diversity of knowing how to play another position, but what it does to the opposition who's planning to play you. You got some tricks up your sleeve almost. So I'm really excited about that component of things. And again, that could quell some of our concerns that we've had on different spots on the pitch and seeing how that's applied and put into practice. So looking ahead to 2024, what do you think are some of the strengths of this team and some of the weaknesses?
So I think, I mean, you mentioned everyone loves playing for Bev. I think the locker room vibes are going to be very strong this season. I think they have like a lot of good locker room presences. Uh, so I think as which is gonna I think that translates on the field to, I think, game to game consistency is gonna be high. I think the team's not gonna get down after a loss. I think you
Hmm.
expect them to bounce back strong and be pretty resilient. Uh, and I think depth and versatility are also going to be strengths. I think, especially later in the season, as like injuries start to come up and people wear down, I
Yeah.
think the depth will play a big part. So I would expect um, this to be a team that maybe gets better as the season goes from that. Because of that, I think as other
Yeah.
teams maybe start to pick up some knocks, that you would expect Racing to improve as it goes. So that's what I see being the strengths.
Yeah. I liked your point about like they're gonna like the team is gonna grow over the course of the season, and I agree with that thought. Like I don't think it's gonna be like they're gonna be shooting out of a can, right? I hope that happens, but I wouldn't be shocked if there was I don't call them growing pains, but like if it's not completely like smooth sailing, like there's a little bit of a learning curve that needs to happen. Uh, but I mean, in terms of strength, I simply wrote down like intangibles. I think it's like a lot of little things. You talked about the strong locker room, absolutely huge component. They've been able to maintain a core, like a core of their talent. There's obviously a lot of turnover, and I'll touch on that in a minute, but I think that's a strength, keeping the right pieces in place. Obviously, everybody's bought in with Bev, and I think that's going to, we're not going to probably directly see it, but I think that's a big positive influence. And the fact that this team nearly made the playoffs last season, you got to think the players that were on the team last year and now, that's a little bit of extra motivation, right? Like they were really close to making it. And now I think they probably would feel this extra little confidence now, like we can do it this year. We are enough better where we can get across that line that we weren't able to last season. So I think a lot of like small components are going to add up in racing's favor. But like you mentioned, might take a little bit of time. Um, Now weaknesses, kind of where are you at with that one? What concerns you?
So I think the weakness is, I guess I'll believe it turns around when I see it. So I'll just go ahead and mention, like, the team has not been able to score goals
Yeah,
for since
that's
they
fair.
since they came to existence now. And so, um, and on paper, it really, I mean, they've they've made a lot of improvements. I think the team's going to be able to control games and hold on to the ball a lot better. But I've yet to see if they've really made that jump in being able to consistently score goals and win games.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of draws last season, and I think the core of that was like the inability to like get a goal when they needed it down the stretch in games. So I I that's going to be my biggest weakness until I'm presented otherwise.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a fair call out, and I share similar concerns. But to just to deviate and provide a different answer here, one thing that also does concern me a little bit, not a huge amount, but a little bit, is the turnover. I think it's mostly good turnover, right? Like I think it was like we mentioned before, net positive in terms of the quality of the roster and what we're trying to build there. But I think there's value of being able to retain some level of stability. We've seen that with Louisville City, right? Like they've had a history of being largely stable year over year, and I think that's been a big factor of their success in racing for various reasons. Has had a hard time with that. Um, Again, net positive there, but there's some like on field like relationship stuff that you now no longer have and have to kind of rebuild. I think it'll pan out fine in the long term. That's just kind of one of my initial thoughts. And we could see a few games and say, okay, like there's no sort of like chemistry concerns. Like they're all up to speed. They've really gelled quickly and are getting going, in a timely fashion. So I'll be looking out for that one. I think that could be something. Now, with all that said, are we making the playoffs? Where do you
I think
think
we
this team
have
lands?
to. I think playoffs are like a must. I think the team can't go this many seasons without making the playoffs. I think it's really important uh, to get over that hurdle this season.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of legitimate optimism, and I think missing the playoffs this season would be even more like negatively impactful than last season.
Yeah.
I mean, come down the stretch, like we were real like kind of on the outside looking in. It was still possible, but outside looking in, and this year we feel like we've upgraded. We feel like we've made another step forward in terms of the roster's composition, in terms of the coaching staff. We had a lot of younger players that are just 1 year older, which I think adds something. And so missing the playoffs would be I think devastating for
Although
lack of
more
better
teams in
term.
the league this season, so it is going to be harder to make the playoffs than last year.
I mean, that's fair.
To note.
That's fair. We'll see how the newer teams do. However, they'll have a little bit steeper of a hill to climb. But yeah, I'm with you. It's playoff or bust time. We were kind of there last year. But this year, I think it needs to happen, and I'm feeling pretty good right now. We'll see though. Um, I know you like to do this predictions. Hit me with some of them. Who's going to lead in goals? Who's going to lead in assists? Who's going to
All
lead
right.
in minutes?
I'm gonna do a weird. I'm shooting my shot for goals because
All right.
I already know who you're gonna say for goals, and I don't want us to have the same answers to everything. So I'm gonna I'm gonna shoot for the outside straight. Uh, I'm gonna guess Flint for goals.
Okay.
Uh, I can see a scenario where that happens. I can see her picking up a couple set piece goals, playing chunk of that season in the forward position and getting some goals in play. So, um, I think Davis is probably a safer bet there. But assists, I don't see how it's anyone other than Pickett. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of skill, but especially with this roster as it is, that I my safe bet there would be Pickett, and then minutes I'll do Ersic again because uh I think Malay is finally gonna be able to get some rest because there's finally a little bit of depth at her position. But I think just looking at the roster, I think Ersic's probably gonna have to play most of the season at center back.
But does Malay want or need the rest? I've still got her down for leading in minutes. I don't think she wants to give that up. I think she wants to keep it going.
Oh, she don't want the rest, but
As long as she can do as long as she can do it, let her go. Um, for goals, I put down Wright Davis. I'm hoping that she really just pops off this year and really kind of grows into her own, even more so than she did last year. Also wrote down Turner. I guess I'm kind of wishing this one in existence that she's, pretty outstanding from the get go and really impactful.
that would be surprising to come out of gate and lead the team.
Yeah, that's why she was second on my list there. I did want to put her in the mix of that one. And like you, assist, like I feel like Pickett's prime for having a really strong year on that front with the like the freedom it seems like she's going to be getting more so than what she had last year. So, um,
Oh, it only has just occurred to me that we're gonna have to specify which right we're talking about this season.
oh man, yeah, that just clicked for me too.
Uh, Jeff suggested we go with K Dub for Kirsten, formerly Davis, now right, which I
K-Dub.
like. Yeah.
All right, well, we gotta make that happen. So if we say it, people know who we're talking about.
Yeah, I guess we'll just go with Aaron. Is there
We've
another?
got to try to make it happen.
Yeah, we're gonna make K Dub happen.
I don't know. Do we have another Aaron on the team?
I don't think so. So yeah,
Aaron, right? I don't know.
we
We'll
have a
we'll
lot.
figure it out. We got a long season to figure
We
this
had a
out.
weirdly we had a weirdly high number of players with last name changes on the team this season. I think it's
What
three,
three?
right?
Oh yeah. Marissa, formerly DeGrande
Formerly
or
Vigiano, yeah,
Vigiano.
and then also formerly Korniak,
Yep.
yeah, and formerly Davis.
Yep.
It just three seems like a lot for one season for one team.
Yeah. I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot to gauge it from, but it just feels high to me. You know, good for them. Um,
Especially all three of them were pretty noteworthy players who you kind of already had an association with the last name. So
yeah.
I'm gonna screw that up all season. I'm just gonna go ahead and apologize ahead of time for that.
Um, before we wrap things up, I do want to talk about the NWSL as a whole, particularly teams to watch, and
And the
inevitably, I know
important
you're going to want to talk about kits. So this is where I open it up for you and let you go at it. What
we
what
got
do
to
you, what do you
leave time
got?
for the things that matter, which are the kits, which are on the whole better than than previous seasons. I will say I think overall the average kit quality for all the teams is up. Um, Bay FC is stuck with what is apparently the new team curse of if you're a new team, you're only allowed to have a plain white and a plain black shirt. I don't know what the deal with that is. Uh uh biggest improvement this season's got to be San Diego, who went from playing in warm-ups for two seasons in a row
Oh yeah, they were
to
bad.
having probably the best kit. that San Diego primary kit is my favorite one of the lot. Have you seen that one? The with the rainbow. It
I
looks very
have, but
San
I'm
Diego
pretty happy
Royal.
with ours.
Yeah. Uh,
I kind of think we won that one.
we didn't win that one. San Diego's is better. I can admit that. I'm an objective fan. Uh,
I'm
ours is
objective, but
good. Ours
Argyle.
is definitely like in up there. It's one of the better kits this season. I don't love every single team having the same secondary kit template. I feel like that's kind of boring and samey. Some of them are kind of nice. Some teams at least pick some good colors for that like diagonal fade that everyone has. I'm thinking specifically. Uh, Actually, it really surprised me because I was not expecting their kits to be very good. But Salt Lake City, as a pair, has like two very solid kits this season. I like their primary kit. It's like a very subtle like mountain motif on the yellow jersey, and I like their dark blue shorts. I think frame it nice with the yellow. It's good contrast. Uh oh, what Washington's are bad. Like bafflingly surprisingly bad. Just like a weird highlighter yellow for their secondary kit, which is not one of their colors. I think they still have not picked colors, and they were supposed to do a rebrand, and they never got around to it. So it's just their logo is black still. Their main kit looks like something the refs would be wearing, or like just it's a mess in Washington.
They got a really supportive owner, and I thought they would just really kind of pop off in really old
How long
dimensions.
does it take to do a rebrand? Like, pick a direction, do
Who
something.
knows?
Very glad to have uh Seattle be the rain again.
No,
And
I forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah, they have two very good kits, and their logo is so much better than just the Olympically owned. We don't
Oh, I
have to
agree.
explain why the Seattle team has OL in front of its name anymore, which is just it's a good for me not having to be annoyed at the stadium.
Yeah, that's not as intuitive as like the
Every
FC
single
acronym,
game we played them, someone behind me I could hear asking like, "What does the OL stand for? Why is that in front of their name?" So, good riddance to that. And they have good kits this season. So, yeah, not as many terrible ones to make fun of as usual. So, um, I think North Carolina's kind of lost their identity a little bit. They had like a good thing going with they always had the navy blue and gold, and they've gotten away from that, and so theirs just feel very generic this season. I feel like when you have a thing, you should stick with it. Like
yeah.
Gotham and the sash, even though I don't love the sash, I really like that they've committed
Consistent
to that
identity. I
being
like that.
their
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on
Uh,
that one.
so I think sometimes it's better to have a thing be your thing than to even have an interesting like consistency. I think is important. So, uh, all right, now that we've covered the important topics, what oh yeah, who to watch? It's Gotham, right?
I want to circle back to kits very, very briefly. We don't, I'm not
Okay.
going to go into the other kits, and
Oh,
like, I love our home kit, but one thing I did want to call it that I hadn't seen until I went to the Louisville City friendly at the stadium. I went in the team shop and I saw another racing kit that I was not familiar with. It's like a teal and it has like a little bit of a like a different like gradient sort of
their
pattern,
warm-ups are
Humana
nice.
branded. It's their training top and or their excuse me, their training or warm. I can't remember. Like it's actual kit, but like the tealish sort of color and like the subtle pattern and with our lavender crest, like it's nice. It's simple. It's like it's kind of plain in the grand scheme,
It's a
but like
warm-up.
it's yeah, it's nice. I don't know. I think I like the colors that are happening there. But I felt
Portland's warm-ups are better than their actual jerseys this season because they have like a dark green or yeah warm-up that looks
who's
really
are
nice. Huh?
who did you say?
Portland.
Oh, okay,
Portland's
okay.
warm-ups are better than their actual jersey this season. Oh yeah, I really like our kit this season. I'm a big Argyle fan.
Oh, I am too.
It looks like they picked it out of like my high school wardrobe because I was one to rock the sweater vest on top of a t-shirt. That is a very mid 2000s Zach look. So big fan of that making a comeback.
There you go. Yeah, and for those who haven't seen it up close, the like the kind I guess the kind of mint
We
little
finally have the
part of
mint
the
and the
Argyle.
lavender on the same
Yeah,
kit.
that's there's a little fleur de lis. It's kind of hard to see like in a picture, but when you're
Ooh,
up close, like it's a fun touch. Like, isn't that pretty cool?
I had not actually seen it up close enough to notice that.
Yeah,
I just liked that we have the mint and the lavender together.
yeah.
The crests are the proper size this time. What happened with that last season? Why was the crest so tiny?
I don't know. They also had the weird thing with the sponsor in the back.
Yeah.
Some little snafu with that. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah, good kits this year. The home kit's boring because all of the not the home kit, sorry, the secondary kit, which is the away kit. I keep getting them
yeah.
flipped.
It's there.
The secondary kit is fine, but all of the secondary kits are fine. So
Yeah.
yeah,
At least we have like an interesting color. It's not like black. It's like that like midnight like lavender or whatever they're calling it. I don't know. It's just like it's just subtle enough with different where it's like, okay, that's not like
just all of the secondary
bad.
kits for the most part kind of look like warm ups because
Yeah.
they're
If it
all
has to be plain, I think we did all right.
yeah.
So but to circle back to what you were saying, yeah, the kind of one thing we had just noted on in terms of the rest of the NW, so we're not going to run through everybody. Half those teams aren't even worth mentioning. But Gotham, yeah, kind of a super team, huh? They did the NBA thing where you get a bunch of stars together, go chasing
Yeah, so
rings.
they have returned Lynn Williams and Midge Purse and Esther Gonzalez and Jenna Knight Swanger. And then to that, they have added Crystal Dunn, Tierna Davidson, Rose Lavelle, and Emily Sonnet. Just
They did okay.
they're stacked. Uh,
Yeah,
that's uh, I think it was perfectly in the team's capability to make the playoffs this year for racing. That seems like it's kind of Gotham or bust for the title.
oh yeah, yeah, anything less than a title for them has to feel real bad. So high stakes. We'll see if they live up to it. All right, Zach, it's time. We need to start winding things down, let
We
people
didn't
move
mention it.
on
They
into
already won the. They were the champions last year, and they added all those players.
yeah, that's
Anyway,
I don't think we were pushing for that for the title, if we're gonna be completely honest. So
no,
we'll,
we gotta make
we'll let them
plans
have
first.
we'll let them have it
One thing
this
at a
year,
time.
but the year after it's ours. All right, we're gonna start winding things down here. Zach, what closing thoughts you got for me on racing? What do you want?
I
What did we not get to? What do you want to reemphasize?
we got to everything. Do you want to do some plugs? Do you want to
I do.
plug some other people doing good work this season?
I do. Zach,
Uh,
tell the listeners who else they should be checking out if they're interested in racing Louisville.
Butchtown Rundown, our rival podcast. I think we should really lean in
Rival.
this season. I think I wanna start a thing with Butchtown Rundown. I wanna like a friendly rivalry going on. I think we should challenge them to something.
Half of
Uh
our show is picking a fight with your show.
it's yeah, but in like the professional wrestling way, in a fun way.
So
You're into that.
we're the heels then.
Yeah, we're the heels. They're definitely they're the face. We're the
Tom
heels.
Benson, I'm gonna fight you, brother, at WrestleMania.
um in written form, Michael Shaw, with Fleur de Lis FC. His player movement tracker was instrumental for me keeping up with all of the off-season machinations this year. Uh, Becky is still plugging away at it. You can find her in multiple places now, right? It's kind of hard to.
She's diversified her portfolio quite a bit.
Yeah. Where can the people read Becky's work this season?
She's on a beautiful game network. She's on Equalizer.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she's contributing and other things that I'm not thinking of at the moment. It's just easiest really to check out her Twitter. I'm pretty sure she has like one of those like link tree things. We'll show you everything. You should be following her anyway if you're interested remotely in racing. She's like the one of the must follows along with the team itself, of course. There's also the Lavender Louisville podcast, which I believe did they start last year or was it the year before? I think it was last year.
Hmm.
Anyway, they're
Thanks.
also contributing things. So I mean, on the Racing Louisville front, we got a lot of options if you want to learn about the team, hear different perspectives. So encourage you to check them out if you've not done so already. Um, One thing I did also want to mention, kind of circling back to the team itself, we didn't bring up Kayla Fisher a lot, but I think she could be primed to have a good season. I don't think
Yeah,
she did good.
you get going.
I was gonna say I don't think she had a bad rookie campaign. I just don't think she didn't jump off the page significantly. And having a year under her belt, like, we put a lot of pressure on some of these like higher draft picks for as far as like, immediate results. And sometimes things just take a little bit of time and there's, other factors or whatnot. So I'm hoping that she has a little bit of I guess, a coming out party and really kind of catches the attentions of a lot of people.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention we didn't bring up Pikiamsa at all.
Yep.
But I think she could have a really solid season this year. I think unlike last season, she's not going to be having to bounce back and forth between the midfield and the defense all year. I think that we have the depth at midfield that she's probably able to focus on center back, but having a center back with the ability to play with the ball at their feet as a midfielder, I think could be a big advantage for the team, especially if we're going to be possessing the ball more. So I think she could be a big contributor on the
Yeah.
back line.
I mean, I think her role is like she's in two like relatively like I'd say congested areas. So I hope she gets some playing time. I think she's a lot of fun to watch, a very interesting player. Honestly, I kind of prefer her in the midfield. I like watching her go with the ball, but I
Yeah.
think she's a very capable defender as well. So you
But
still have
having
that
that
option.
skill set, I think having her at center back really helps with, especially if we're going to be more possession
Yeah.
oriented.
Yeah. No, that's fair. So I'm glad I don't have to write up the starting 11 and make some of those decisions. That's for Bev to do. Anyway, I think it's time for us to close up shop here. But and yeah, I guess we'll come back next time. We're gonna be talking to a microphone. It's gonna be
We're
because
going to
we'll
be
have
back every
regular
week.
season matches that will have happened that we'll get to talk about. Finally, can stop speculating on things. I'm ready to move on and talk about what's happened. You excited?
I'm very excited. We get to go to a game this weekend. It's here.
Yeah,
Well, I get
yeah,
to go to a game
you
this
get to go.
weekend.
I
You
will.
got to be on the radio.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I got obligations with the Louisville City side of things, so it's going to conflict with my ability to watch the Racing Louisville match live.
We'll
So
divide and conquer. It'll be good.
I hope they don't do like too well where it's like, hey, but you can't show up anymore. Like
Oh,
it's the new meta, you know?
if they come out of the gate strong, you're not allowed to come to any more games.
Yeah, I'll just have to
Will they
like sell my
lose?
tickets. All right. Well, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're as excited about racing as we are. I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, and I'm really curious and excited to see how this team develops and grows and where things pan out. I want to thank, as always, to our State of Louisville partners for helping us produce this. Got a lot of great content, a lot of other shows you guys should be checking out if you're into Louisville athletics. Yeah, we'll be back next week. We're going to be finally getting back into a regular cadence. I guess barring a few weeks whenever things come up, but I'm ready to get back into the grind.
Yeah, I'm ready to get in the groove again.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's all from us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And like we said, next week, same place. Take care.
Bye, y'all.